I'm nervous.
No, that's
There's so many people in the Zoom right now.
yes. Uh, welcome to the welcome to the Suicide Prevention Punchline, starring me, Frank King, and you. Who are you?
Zara Khan.
Yes, and we have two guests today. Two, count them, two guests today on podcast number 5. And I'll let you, since you know them better than I, introduce our guests for today.
So Seth Lawrence is my buddy, my fellow comedian buddy.
Hello, hello.
He's a really talented comedian. He's a clean comic. He runs shows. He's performed at the Comedy Store, Flappers, Ice House, all over. And he's a really great guy. And he brought his mom with him.
Just to prove how sweet I am.
It's like a really bad date.
Hey!
No, I'm not. No, no, Mom. I don't mean because you're here, but a mom is here. I mean, what kind of date is it when your mom comes along? You know.
Yeah, not only Punxsutawney people had chaperones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Seth can't be alone in the Zoom room without his mom.
Yeah,
A
okay.
strange woman.
I'm too afraid.
So anyway, Tracy Lawrence is Seth's mom, and she's actually a therapist. And so we thought that it would be interesting to bring both a comedian's perspective and a therapist's perspective.
A therapist has to be his mom's perspective, so.
Yeah, you get a twofer. You get a twofer for her.
Yeah.
Oh, this will be interesting.
Yeah. So let's dive in. Let's start with Seth. So how'd you get into comedy? What's your story?
Sure. I think my first experiences with performing on stage were actually at Comedy Sports in Provo. So I worked doing improv comedy for about a year while I was an undergraduate at Brigham Young University.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wait, now, for the listeners, I'm guessing Brigham Young, odds are you're probably LDS. I'm guessing just a shot in the dark.
Yep, I am.
You should define what LDS is.
LDS, so that stands for Latter-day Saint, which is an abbreviated form of our name that takes 2 years to say. The full name of the church is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so more commonly known as LDS or Mormon.
I'm guessing the prophets got together with Brigham Young and said, look, Brig, that's going to be one long URL. We need something, so how about LDS? How about LDS.com? How about that?
Yeah. And they did it, LDS.org or something like that. So that's where, yes, that is my religious heritage.
I see.
Yeah, so I did improv for a year and then went to law school, tried to be a normal person. And my wife decided to show me up on the income scale. And now I'm home with the kids during the day and pursuing stand-up in the evenings.
Okay, well, hang on just a second, Seth. Let's back up. You went to law school in North Carolina, which is where I'm from.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was born in Raleigh, went to school in Chapel Hill. So where?
No kidding. Yeah, I was at UNC.
Oh, wow. Go Heels.
Yeah, go Heels. All the way. Yeah, very excited. They won the championship the first year we were there. It was so exciting.
You're speaking of the basketball, not the football championship. That's not.
The football team won the other kind of lottery, which was the investigation because of their bad coursework.
That's correct.
Oh, wow.
What year was that?
2014.
Okay, and you said you started comedy doing open mics. Where did you do open mics when you were at Chapel Hill?
So I did a couple at Good Nights up in Raleigh.
Which is my home club. It's where I started comedy, by the way.
Yeah, very fun. So my open mics were run by the NC State college kids.
Yeah.
So a lot of them doing open mics out there. So I'd go there. I think they did it on Tuesday nights, if I remember right.
Yeah, those kids at NC State were all the ones that couldn't get in Chapel Hill because they didn't have the SAT scores. Just another shot at the Wolfpack.
And it was apparent in their comedy.
Okay, now did you meet your wife in Chapel Hill?
No, I met my wife in Provo. So we were both going to Brigham Young University to BYU and met in our senior year. So.
Well, one quick question. Did you do a 2-year mission someplace around the world?
I did. I was in Montreal, Canada.
Oh, tough break. Yeah.
Province.
Zambia, Tanzania,
I
Montreal.
know.
Yeah.
It's so first world. It was unbelievable.
That's really tough.
Yeah, it was awful. No, it was great. Yeah, I loved it.
So what does your wife do? She is an earner, but what is her job?
Yeah, she's an accounting professor. So she teaches
wow.
at the business school at USC.
And you're a stay-at-home dad, Mr. Mom. Good job.
Mr. Mom. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Huffs, I interrupted there with all my questions.
Zara Khan is always here to answer the questions.
Yes, let's go back to Zara's original question. So you started improv in Provo, you did some open mics in North Carolina, then your wife proved that she was a better earner than you and said, stay home, I'll take care of this.
Yeah.
I think that's where we left off on your comedy career.
Yeah, so we moved when she took the job at USC. I'd only been practicing for about a year and a half, and California's bar is quite tough, and every bar exam is expensive. And when we looked at the numbers, it was just like, why do this? So she and I talked, and she said, look, I know you've been interested in comedy, and if you want to pursue it, we're going to be, part of our discussion was LA, Chicago, New York, as far as where she was applying. And that was with the idea that I would stay at home and pursue something a little bit more creative. So we ended up in LA, and that's where we are. So after we finished all the home projects, I started doing stand-up, in the evenings full time in 2017.
Well, speaking for all male comics who have had a wife when they decided they wanted to stand up comedy, I must say you won the wife lottery in that case. Well,
I did for sure.
If you'd like to pursue comedy, and I've got 3 choices of cities to go to, which one would be best for your comedy career? Here's what my first wife said to me when I said, I'm going to be a comedian. Yeah, well, I'm going to be divorced. So
yeah.
that was that. One of the nicest things anybody ever did for me.
Yeah, so I've definitely lucked out. She's been incredibly supportive.
A, she's bringing home the bacon, and you're frying it up in the pan. B, she supports your comedy career. So she's definitely a keeper.
I want a wife like that.
Yeah.
What did Zara say?
I want a wife like that. I mean, I'm not lesbian, but I'd go lesbian for
if Mormonism ever brings back polygamy, Zara, then we can all just team up.
Hey!
Nice.
But unlikely.
And you already have a place in LA, and Zara would like to move there.
That's right. Right. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, Tracy.
Yes.
What do you think of your son doing comedy?
Well, now I think I responded to that question in writing.
And now you have to do it verbally.
Oh my gosh. Well, I thought that was I'm completely triggered by it in a way, because, unfortunately I grew up pretty poor. And
after the age of 10, I believe.
Yeah. So, earning a living, always doing something for money was really important to me. And I know that Seth is an extremely good person and very, very talented. But the fact that he puts himself up there for people's precariousness is really, it's hard for me as a mom. I'm trying to learn to be a good sport about my adult children making their own decisions.
I wish my mom were like that.
Well, she might not eat enough chocolate.
Is chocolate the key?
Chocolate might be the key, and going to the gym. Exercising like hell to get it out. Yeah.
Yeah, and if we can find you a wealthy husband who'll just say, look, Zara, stay home, be a mom,
exactly.
and a comic. That's what we need.
Oh, I thought you were talking to Tracy, and I was like, that's a weird thing to say to her.
Well, I'm trying to keep up with you comedians here. You're pretty fast-witted.
So, I forgot my question. Oh, yeah. Have you ever been to Seth's show?
Yes, I have. I've been to a few of them.
Oh, okay. How did you feel about that?
You have to be honest. You have to be honest. They maybe didn't say this.
Well, I don't know. I didn't hear it from the boss guy here, so I'm not sure. But okay, I'll
Who's
be
the
honest.
boss guy? Is it me or is it Frank?
Both of you.
Oh, okay.
Both of you, plural. The boss people. Some of it I've liked a lot. What's a problem is some of it prior to Seth getting on stage, I found repulsive.
Oh wait, no, you're not talking about his comedy. You're talking about the other comedians.
Well, yes.
No, she meant my life before getting up on stage.
Oh, really? That was that bad.
Repulsive. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
So-
There's an MTV thing, Mormon's Gone Wild. Weren't you down in Lauderdale?
Yeah, I flashed my my pecs, as it were, a couple times. Just for a shirt, though. Just for a shirt.
No, but anyway.
You're like my mom, because my mom came and watched my show, and the first comic went up and started talking about masturbation with like act outs and everything, and then the second comic asked my mom if she'd ever send a titty pic, and afterwards my mom came home and she was so bad.
Oh my gosh.
You hang out with the dirty people. Why you hang out with dirty people?
Yeah. How old is your mother?
She's 59.
Oh, well, see, I'm older than her. I think it's ridiculous. I mean, that stuff is not funny.
Well, Mom, I got to tell you, there is a market for that. If it's well written, it is funny. I tell my more conservative, older friends, look, here's the deal. Come see me. Yes, I'd love to have you come. However, I need you to arrive. I'm going to be going on at 8:20. I'm going to be coming off at 8:50. You get there at 8:18. Even 8:52, unless you want to learn things about the human body you had no idea about.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm waiting to graduate to the shows where I know the time I'm getting on, and then I can do that same tactic. But as of now, it's just, you'll find out when you get here. And who knows how many drop-ins will push you back.
Yeah, Lord, yes. And Mom, by the way, here's the good news about clean comedy. It's actually I like to say the dirty little secret about clean comedy is that it pays far better. Corporate gigs, cruise ships, colleges, and you can do it more places. And, if your son decides to pursue corporate comedy where he's doing 45 minutes in the rubber chicken circuit, at dinner or lunch for the association of whatever, we're talking, we're talking $5,000 to start for 45 minutes. So it will all of a sudden appear to be a career.
Now, see, this is where it gets triggering on the other end. Because on one level, my mom, I think, is upset or triggered that I might be wasting my time, right? But on the other end is that if I make it, I'm going to make so much money doing nothing. That's the other triggering element, I think, of entertainment industry.
Oh, yes. I've said many times, Seth, the reason that I put off doing a podcast so long, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
commitment.
Yeah, and Mom, you should know that comedians don't become comedians because they have an amazing work ethic. We're working 5 to 45 minutes a night. I mean, my dad worked 2 jobs to put us all through college, and and I go to the bank and the post office, I gotta have a nap.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Mom, if we can get Seth into corporate comedy, I got to tell you, I've done shows where I've walked out of the conference room where we had the show with more money in my pocket than if I'd gone in with a gun and robbed everybody.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Well, like Seth said, this is going to be triggering all over.
She's going to get sick, just physically ill. I might have to start, once I get to that point, I'll send her photos of every paycheck just to see.
Attaboy.
Reaction.
And Zara and I'll be happy to help you get there.
Oh,
yeah,
beautiful.
well, that's very nice, but I'm glad you all find your parents' angst so entertaining. It's sad to me.
Well, we're going to talk about our own personal angst, right? And how entertaining that is, too. So
yes.
Yeah.
It's not just you. Don't feel left out.
Well, I'm sure Zara's mother and I could be best friends, actually. In fact,
Probably.
we should know when you both perform in the same gig and we can sit there ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Oh
Yeah.
God.
Well, you know, Dad, the first gig Dad ever saw me in was at the Ice House on Dave McNary's show where Zara was performing. And she was the only other comedian Dad liked at all.
Yeah, I remember Dad saying that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Zara.
Yeah.
Well,
And
thank
he
you.
had
What a
he had to
compliment.
sit through, I think, 20 minutes of abortion jokes.
Oh,
And if
God.
there's anything that's going to get my dad going, it's going to be abortion jokes.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag at the clubs. You know, it's but Zara, Zara's been very careful. She she found herself on stage or her personality on stage very early, and she stuck to her guns, even though the 6 guys in front of her were all talking about their genitalia.
Yeah.
And and it's paid off, I do believe. I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah. No, Zara's very talented. My dad absolutely loved her.
well, and Mom, your son has chosen a difficult path in that on these mics, these open mics, if you're doing clean comedy, you're following somebody doing, like I said, bodily functions, and
Oh, yes, I've heard him.
and it sucks the oxygen out of the room, makes it much more difficult for your son to get people to laugh after they heard all that. So he does have a work ethic, and that he has chosen a very difficult road. It'll pay off in the long run. Those guys will still be working open mics when he's making good money doing stand-up or whatever. But it's same for Zara. It's a tough row to hoe when you're a clean comic. So
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your support and your kind words of encouragement. What's your phone number so I can have you on my speed dial?
Oh, great. Hey, listen, if some crazy woman on the phone's got a bone to pick with you, I think she's calling from Salt Lake.
And don't kid yourself. I didn't grow up religious. I grew up with a family that was from the wrong sides of the track and knew all the hard knocks. So, there isn't much people can put on the table that I find upsetting, except when they're laughing at it.
Ah, okay.
So
There should be no joy in suffering. 0.
That is correct.
It should just be hell the whole way.
If there was joy in suffering, then what was the guy's name in the Bible? Lot? No.
Job?
Job?
Yeah, Job would have been a stand-up.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're not going to believe what happened to me today.
Well, he basically was, and his friends were my mom. This isn't funny, Job. You need to repent.
Oh, gosh. Anyway.
Very tough.
Sorry, another question for our panel?
Yeah. So we are the suicide prevention punchline. So I'm going to transition into some mental health questions. I'll leave it open to whether Seth or Tracy want to answer first. But have you ever struggled with any mental health challenges, and what were those like for you?
Do you want me to go first, Mom, or do you want to?
Well, sure. You can describe what a horrible childhood I gave you.
No, not at all. I feel like actually more of the mental health issues that I've suffered from, which have all gone, undiagnosed as of yet. I am currently looking for a therapist that is
Whoa, wait a minute.
to talk to.
Hold on. We have one in the family, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you can't
Look,
treat
cannot
your own
treat your
family.
You can't
What?
treat your family.
Really?
No, you can't.
Like a doctor operating on their kids or, relatives.
Oh, I got to tell my mother, who's a therapist, I want all that money back.
Yeah. She's been soaking you, apparently.
Yeah, that's,
Oh, man. If only therapy were like the Bringer shows, the Bringer mics, where you had to perform on friends and family first.
yeah.
But no, I think most of my, my wife has been telling me for the last few months, really years, that I should be talking to a therapist because she's convinced that there are things that I need to deal with. And so I'm looking currently. But depression for me seems to come in bouts, spurts. It's not, I don't think I suffer from chronic depression. It just depends on what's going on in my life. So it was really tough for me after graduating from law school and then taking and failing the bar twice before passing it the third time. So that was tough. And, you know, you just feel like you can't, like nothing is working. And no matter what you do, happiness will not be there. That's sort of what it feels like for me. So
Well,
all of that has happened later in life for me, though.
Didn't you say you had thoughts of suicide every now and then?
Every now and then. And now it depends. So yeah, after it's, for me, they come on when it's like really, very, like for me, very challenging, right? So after I failed the bar the second time, it was very, very tough. And when anytime I have a serious argument with my wife, like not just, you know, you got to turn off the burner or, you know, the AC's on too high, but like serious arguments, then I tend to be like, all right, well, great. What's the point? What's the point?
Oh yeah. Why bother?
Yeah.
I've had people say to me, there's no answer to this. Oh, yes, there is.
Yeah. Very simple, cheap one.
I can fix this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think Louis C.K. had a joke that summed it up pretty well, which is everyone that's, you know, they're lying to you. It solves all of that person's problems for sure.
Yeah. My mom, by the way, you don't know this, but I have something called major depressive disorder, which is depression, I assume you know.
Oh, yes.
Recurs, and I have something called chronic suicidality, which means for me the option of suicide is always on the menu as a solution for problems large and small.
Right.
The good news is, and I think that clinicians should ask this question after you tell them you're depressed, you've had thoughts of suicide, you've got a plan. The next question, number 4, should be, are you going to kill yourself? Which I would say, no, why would I kill myself? Even though I have thoughts of suicide all the time. 5th question should be, why not? Tell me why you're not going to do it. Which it leaves it on a positive note, I think. So,
as long as you've got a good answer.
I do have a good answer, actually. I speak on suicide prevention, and I talk about chronic suicidality, Mom. And almost every time I speak, somebody comes up after my keynote privately, and they have chronic suicidality. They did not know it had a name. They thought they were kind of freak. And so the relief is palpable that it's, you know, that there are others. Right. And I realized, Mom, that I'm like George Bailey in the movie It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh,
my mom's favorite movie, by the way.
I hate that movie.
Loves it.
I've been shown what other people's lives would be like if I weren't there to speak.
Right.
And so I can't kill myself.
That's wonderful.
I'd take all of them with me if I did. So.
Right. Absolutely.
Yep.
And you know, that connection to loved ones and that feeling of responsibility to them is huge.
Yeah. That'll probably keep me alive.
Right.
But that said, Mom, I got to tell you, if it weren't for my chronic suicidality, the fact that I could, you know, I'm sitting in the window seat in the exit row of life and I can bail at any time. If I didn't have that, I probably would have killed myself a long time ago. So it's ironic that that's what keeps me alive, actually.
And, you know, a lot of times when people are so creative like you all are and have a lot of chemicals bouncing around and very smart people, that's one of the consequences of being smart is a lot of chemicals bouncing around in your brain.
I did a TED Talk called Mental with Benefits, the Evolutionary Advantages of Mental Illness, and that's the premise. Everybody I've ever met who had was not completely dysfunctional, that had a mental illness, was talented in some other way, some superpower. I said that to my sister who has depression and anxiety. She goes, superpower? We're not the X-Men, we're the Xanax Men.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's the price we pay for. And here's my next TEDx, Mom. See what you think. It's called Depressive Realism. What if those of us with depression are, in fact, seeing the world closer to the way it actually is?
As it really.
And the neuronormal folks, you know, are just slightly delusional.
Well, it's nice to take away their gifts.
Yeah. So the glass really is half empty, kids. I'm sorry to tell you.
Oh
my gosh.
What about you, Mom? Do you have any history of mental health challenges?
Yes. I was pretty depressed. My mom, and it was situational, but because it was a chronic situation, she had cancer in and out of my later childhood and teenage years, and it finally took her. But I suffered from an eating disorder and depression during that time.
Like anorexia, bulimia?
No, it was binge eating and sometimes bulimia.
Oh, okay.
So, and had horrible, actually, body dysmorphia. I've tried really hard to combat as I've gotten older.
What kind of coping skills did you use, and how have you overcome some aspects of it, if you have?
Well, one of the big coping skills that I have is exercising. And and then another is to have key people in my life that I feel accept me no matter what. In fact, that's one of the key pieces to resiliency or recovery or managing stressful life situations that are more chronic than acute, is having just one or two key people in your life that you can be vulnerable with. And you feel really accept you and love you.
Trigger there? What was that?
Yeah, that was my son shutting the door incredibly loudly. Let me see if I can switch.
That's all right.
All right, let me see. Is that working?
Is he right there?
No, it's a very sensitive microphone on our house. On my computer in our house is not enormous. So
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. All right, but we're good now, right? Okay.
So Zara, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'm a social worker as well. I'm in a graduate program for my
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I worked in the mental health field for 7 years. I worked a lot with suicidal clients, people with mental illness and eating disorders.
Yes.
And, I did a lot of peer mentoring positions where I shared my lived experience with mental illness with other people to help give them hope.
Right.
And so I've heard a lot of stories, and I'm always curious about, well, how do you get through it and how do you cope with it? Because it might be something you have for the rest of your life, but there's always something you can do about it. So thank you for answering that question.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. So what kind of therapy do you practice?
Well, it depends on the case that's presented, but I do a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy and experiential. I do some EMDR for trauma cases. And I find that holistically, if you can approach a case where you look at people in all aspects of their lives, like nutritionally, socially, who they're connected to, and bringing in people that they are connected with, if that's available to them, so that they can stay really connected to those people. So it kind of just depends on the presenting problem.
Yeah, that's a big philosophy for NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Right.
Yeah, about bringing in the family or the support system in order to in the treatment.
Well, and getting people to look at their self-care habits, you know, if they get out and move around, how much water they drink. You know, it might sound simple, but it's so helpful to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You asked Seth, when any of my kids are sick, I've always asked them, are they drinking enough water?
That is true. That is the big catchphrase, that and sleep.
Yeah, and sleep.
Yeah.
Well,
Have
Mom, you'll be happy
Yes?
to know, part of my self-care plan is I bodybuild at age 62, and the bodybuilders pretty much drink a gallon of water a day.
Right.
So I drink a gallon of water a day. Now, that requires me to know where every bathroom is in the city of Eugene and to where it depends. So, you know, there's a downside to that much water.
Yeah.
Well, there's, right.
No, but I'm with you, Mom. I meditate, medicate, I work out. I'm very careful about my diet. I fast. And I surround myself with people. I'm 62 years old. My dad died at 40 of a heart attack. I've had 2 aortic valve replacements, double bypass, a heart attack, 3 stents. I have chronic suicidality, and so I'm yeah.
My mom's just scatterbrained about what treatments she could recommend in this moment.
I'm living on borrowed time and I'm upside down alone, so I don't keep people in my life that are that aren't
that are a waste of time. You're getting rid of them.
It's like books. If I'm reading a book, I read. Right now, I'm 62. I read 62 pages of a book, and if I don't like it, it goes to the library because there are too many books I need to read or want to read.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
I got no time to. And every now and then, Mom, I got to tell you, because I'm a little on the blunt side, because somebody invited me to go see Riverdance. I'm like, I'd rather chew tinfoil. Well, you could have said, no, I'm busy. If I said I was busy, you might ask me again sometime. And I just,
Yeah, right.
I'd rather just, cut to the chase, pull the Band-Aid off. I'm not going to see the Irish dance without their arms. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that. Like, I'm deciding I don't want to be around mean people. I don't like meanness.
Yep. And you don't have to. I've fired, blocked, unfriended, unfollowed. So many people in the last 2 years. Yeah. You blocked him because his opinion differed from yours? Well, he's a pinhead and I blocked him. Sorry, I haven't got time.
Well, and sometimes it's not so much that they're different, it's how they're different. If there's hostility or a bad atmosphere, forget it.
Yes, I agree.
So
that's why we don't have family reunions very often.
Yeah, that's why it's Sunday, and as you notice, I'm not making Sunday dinner for any of my own people.
She's alone.
Oh, Mom, you're alone.
Yeah, I know. Oh, man.
Mom, are you married?
Yes, I've been married for, about 35 years.
And what does Mr. Mom do?
He's a professor
Of
English.
English and Asian American studies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he teaches at BYU.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
He also taught at USC. That's where we met.
Yeah, he did his doctorate there, right?
Right.
Were you his student by chance?
Oh, no.
I don't think it ever would have worked out.
No, it would not have. No.
The funny thing is, my dad I feel like he's a fantastic professor. And he's also a fantastic father, but his demeanors in both situations are drastically different.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He is terrifying at home at times. At least when I was growing up.
Yes, that's true.
He was very intense. He's mellowed out now that with the two youngest boys, his intensity phases them not at all. And so he's changed tactics, I feel like. But when I was growing up, his intensity was incredibly effective. And so I would have friends in college that would take a class from him and then say, oh my gosh, your dad's just the sweetest guy. And I'd be like, really? Because he is sweet, but not 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Do you think that's why you have like such high achieving brothers and sisters?
That's a loaded question because they're not that high achieving. Yeah, my sister's a lawyer. She's very high achieving. She's done excellent. My other sister is also very high achieving. She is now doing a master's in biochemical engineering or something ridiculous. And I think has plans to do
medical school,
PA school or medical school, but something in the medical field. We'll see, though. We'll see. She'll probably end up just having babies and stay at home like a good mom. And
oh, brother.
Yeah.
What am I, a bad mom?
No, that was the whole point, is that
I see.
You're a great mom. She'll just be a good mom. And
I'm actually working on family therapy as well. So.
And my brothers are right now in undergraduate school, but I think they're just doing their general education stuff right now. I don't know that they've picked majors or anything like that. So,
well, Benjamin wants to do real estate or finance.
Yeah.
And
for now, it's changed like a million times. So for now, he's doing real estate, finance, and my other brother Nathan is what, culinary arts? Is that what he's thinking
Yes,
of right now?
maybe. Yes.
Which would be great for him. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
But you can tell what kind of mom I am. When my youngest ran away from home, I immediately went to the computer and took his money away.
She canceled credit cards, bank cards.
Wow.
And my dad was pacing. My dad's reaction to crisis is, depending on the crisis, is nervousness and some anger, which I have inherited tenfold. And my mom just said, great, we shut off his money, he'll be back.
Yeah.
How old was this child when he ran away?
16.
Oh, that's a little late, kind of a late bloomer.
Yeah, well, he...
Well, he's the youngest, and as Seth will attest to, he doesn't move fast. He's completely opposite of...
Well, when he was chased by the guy in the gorilla suit, he moved pretty quick.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyhow, that's a story for another time. But
yeah, right.
My favorite part of that story of my brother running away is when he came home, because he eventually did come home. He'd run away for 3 hours, right?
With something no shoes.
Yeah. Came home, and my mom said, Benjamin, where were you? And he explained where he was, which was this sort of abandoned road with an overpass he'd been hiding out under. And my mom said, Ben, you realize you could have been raped, right? And my brother said, what are you talking about? And she, deadpan, said, pick a hole. That is...
Oh, my God, Mom.
the best part of that story.
Yes.
Well, let's
that
cut
summarizes
to the chase.
That summarizes my mom's attitude toward quitters. Is you get what you deserve.
Yeah, in one hole or another, apparently.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how you get it.
Yeah,
We're talking about golf, right, guys?
Right.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Dear.
Oh boy.
Seth,
Yeah.
I didn't going back, you talked about your struggles, but you didn't talk about the coping skills that you use to get through it. So
Yeah.
tell me more about that.
Well, I think like Frank, I turn to familial relationships. So ironically, it's, when I feel lowest is because of arguments that I've had with my wife, but it's also that connection that keeps me from doing anything, So I definitely think about her and the kids, and then, siblings and parents, and pain that it would cause if I were gone. So I stick around.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, there's a whole practical side that my mind goes very practical when I think about suicide. So it's like, well, where would I do it? How would I do it? That sounds all too complicated.
Yeah.
Picking places. It's sort of like, where would I even go? I would need privacy. I don't have that. So where would it happen? So there's also a practical side and laziness that kicks in.
So you stay alive due to laziness and indecisiveness is what you're telling me.
Yeah, exactly. So there are flaws that can be benefits.
That's correct.
Yeah. So yeah, but I think my faith, I think faith has a large factor in helping me look toward, looking for hope, looking for the positives as well.
Does your faith influence your comedy?
Yeah, for sure. I tried to resist talking about being Mormon for the first 6-7 months of me doing comedy, and really got no traction because I was just another white guy spouting off about nonsense. But as soon as I started talking about my religious beliefs and making fun of some aspects of the Mormon culture, but then also making fun of aspects of atheism and those who are agnostic, I think people actually remembered, oh, you're not just like some white guy. You're the Mormon comic. You're the Mormon comic. So yeah, it's a part of me that I can't and shouldn't ignore. So as I've started talking about it more, the comedy's also more genuine. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a show on HBO.
Big Love?
No.
Which one are you thinking of?
No, that's polygamy.
Yeah.
No, the comic who was raised very strictly religious, big tall guy.
Ryan Hamilton?
Yeah, what was it? Where he slept on people's couches in New York for a while?
Crashing.
Crashing. Yeah,
Pete Holmes. Pete Holmes. Right?
Yeah, I didn't realize he was a comic until after the show had already been canceled. he was great at it. I think amazing actor.
When he did the Christian comedy circuit for years, apparently.
Yeah, and then became an atheist or an agnostic, and then because God let him down, didn't get him the Tonight Show or something, and then
Well, he got married to another religious person, and I guess it didn't work. And so once she left him, or once they got divorced, I think is his story. He was reevaluating his life.
Well, and he became a stand-up, which is kind of how the show works. Is and there's a scene in there. What triggered it for me was a club owner in New York. He goes up, he does a showcase set. It's good. He comes to her, and she says, "You're just another 6 foot tall, brown-haired white guy." She said, a good kill is worse than a bad. Where you go up and you be yourself, and you're different, and you're bad.
Oh yeah, so a unique bomb is better than a generic kill. Yeah,
a generic kill. Who are you? Why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
I guess you, after 4, 5, 6 months, you realize just another white guy up there telling jokes.
Yeah. I would talk about family stuff, and that certainly sets me apart as far as being married and having kids. But it's also not what following the masturbation dick jokes with "I've got 3 kids." Everyone's sort of like, "Shouldn't you be home? Why?" So
yeah, well, and I got to tell you, Seth, you're on the podcast. You're wearing a tie.
Yeah, well, I came from church. So,
yeah, all you need is a little black badge with white lettering, and
I know. I'll show you the book. You want a book? I'll send it to you. I do not dress like this for the stand-up. It would be, I think, too overwhelming.
I think you should go up there with a white shirt, the black pants, the little black button,
just the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, my only problem with the Mormon church, by the way, my only complaint is that there's no such thing as a short sleeve dress shirt. I'm sorry, you need long sleeve.
It gets hot out there.
That's my only. Frank? It's just a fashion problem I've got. Yeah, there's no such thing as a long sleeve dress shirts, a short sleeve dress shirt. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, I'm an atheist, so tell me what fun you make of atheists.
So the only bit that I've really worked out as far as atheism is concerned is to talk about how I need religion to be a good person. I need judgment to tell me, because if my wife leaves 3 seconds on the microwave, I want to slit her throat, because she's like beating the beep, and that drives me crazy. I need the microwave to work when I get to the buttons. You know what I mean? But it does. She doesn't clear it, though, so I have to clear it, and that drives me crazy, right? So I need God to tell me that if I do that, I'm going to go to hell. That is not an appropriate response, right?
No, slitting her throat over the microwave is
a little drastic, right?
Yeah, that's. I
also will go to Disneyland, and it's like, well, why can't I just pretend to be disabled and cut to the front of the line? And that's also dishonest. I shouldn't do it, right? So atheists who are good people confuse me because there's no judgment that's coming for you, right? There's no God.
Reward.
There's no reward. You're just out here for number one. So if you're not cutting in line at Disneyland, you are wasting your time, right?
Or we are good people.
You're idiots. You're idiots. You are wasting your time. You should be So that's what I've. That's the aspect of atheism that I make.
And I've said that about religion. I said, it might be easier if I had a rule book. I wouldn't have to decide for myself.
Right.
Do the right thing. Because I have people say to me, "You just chose atheism so you could do what you wanted." I'm not going to do what I wanted. Because here's the deal in the New Testament. Basically, Kathleen Madigan said, New Testament. I can sum it up for you like this: Jesus said, "I'm leaving. I'm coming back.
Yeah.
Be good to each other." How much more do you need to know, really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what can and can you not do?
And
what does it mean to be good?
I've got conservative Christian friends who will tell you that I live my life closer to the teachings of Jesus Christ than their religious friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
that's because they are exercising righteous judgment, Frank, and you don't have that insight.
I do not.
You don't know who to hate. So.
That's correct. I need a list.
That's right. That's right.
Well, kids, we are at the end of the podcast portion. We'll probably do a little something for the after show, so don't go anywhere.
Okay.
But we'll wrap it up here. Seth, how do people get in touch with you?
So Instagram is probably the best spot. I am at Seth, SETH.T.Lawrence, LAWRENCE.
Okay. And Mom, I'm guessing in your case it's a snail mail or what?
If you have a pigeon handy, write a little
Nothing
note.
like putting my generation down.
How old are you, Mom?
I'm 65.
I'm 62, so we're in the same generation.
Yeah.
Same deal.
Well, you're more progressive then, but or not as prejudiced. I'm a little prejudiced.
I see.
Having young boys grow up with the gaming culture.
Oh, yes, Lord.
Make millions playing Dota. I try not to talk about suicidality.
Well,
Anyway, well, my email is TODDLAWMFT, like Mary Frank Tom @hotmail.com.
Mom's got a Hotmail. Look at that.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. And I think I also saw you on Tinder, but I'm not going to.
Swipe right.
That's like you better have swiped right.
Oh my gosh. No insulting the mom.
No, she's a doll.
Swiping
All right.
left.
Thank you guys for being on the
Thank you
podcast,
so much, Frank.
podcast.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. Nobody go anywhere. We're going to do
We're
an
here.
after
We're
show.
here.
Got more questions for you guys.
So I don't push any buttons.
No,
Don't
just
touch anything.
don't touch anything, Mom. Yeah. It's hard enough to get you on the Zoom. Get you
Yeah,
back.
don't go.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Zara, I'll see you next week on the Suicide Prevention Punchline.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Now, this is the after show. What'll happen is that 45 minutes of that will be, they'll take the audio and make the podcast out of it. Now we'll do about 5, 10, 15 minutes on video for the YouTube channel. So I've got questions, Seth.
Okay. Fire away.
Yes. What upsets you most about married life, besides the aforementioned your wife leaving?
Yeah, besides the microwave. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the other big pet peeves that I have is, or I guess the fact of married life is that you get with somebody that knows you better than you want to admit, and better than you know yourself. So there are times when she and I will be talking about something and she'll be like, are you upset? And I will say, no, I'm not upset. I'm fine. When I'm deep down upset. And she will say, no, I think you're upset. I say, no, I am not upset. And it will escalate to where I am irate, but I try to blame it on her rather than taking the responsibility of starting out upset. So having someone that knows me that well can be very unsettling at times.
Yeah, and my wife has a similar situation in that I am an audio person, a sound person.
Yeah.
And I can tell just by the tension in her vocal cords or the way she answered the question. Sometimes it's really simple, like, well, I'm not mad about that.
Yeah.
Which means there is obviously something
Yeah.
else.
And now it's the guessing game.
Yeah, and she didn't no, why, but I just heard you say that. It's, my first wife, by the way, the one was my high school sweetheart, college sweetheart, got married. She'd never have gotten married. We had nothing in common, but you know what they say, opposites attract. She was pregnant, I wasn't.
Right.
We were walking on the beach after the second time we got separated, and she did not want me to be a comedian. She wanted me to be a CPA. She would have had me invest the same amount of time I spent at Mike's, open mics.
Yeah.
And would have been no problem if I'd been going to school to be a CPA.
Right.
But she came from an insurance background. Family was in insurance. You work 30 years, you get the gold watch, retirement.
Yeah.
And so I said to her, look, I'll just do open mics. I won't do comedy for a living. And she said, as you mentioned, Seth, she knew me better than I knew myself. She says, you're lying to me and you're lying to you. You want to be a comedian since you're in the 4th grade. You need to go do that. I'll go move in with my folks. We'll get divorced. And
so she was supportive in a way.
Yeah, well, yeah, because the kicker was, she goes, I've seen your act. You don't have what it takes.
Oh, gosh.
Which, by the way, motivated
that was just
me.
Mean-spirited.
But it motivated me for decades.
Yeah. Well, good. There's nothing like hate to just drive you forward.
I'll show you attitude.
I have comedians come up to me and tell me I'll never be a comedian.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that
Guess we'll do it.
rage can really work.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, if you can harness that energy. And somebody, by the way, Seth, we were living in San Diego.
Yeah.
I won the Improv's first annual Funniest Person San Diego contest.
Wow. Congratulations.
Wow.
Oh, thank you. And every time I did something like that, somebody anonymously would take the newspaper article and send it to my ex-wife in Seattle. I have no idea. I have no
Who
idea.
did that? Who did
I don't know, but not me. But I was thrilled.
That's a true friend right there.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was probably your mother.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom. Yeah, and years later, I bumped into my ex-in-laws. We were living in La Jolla, which is kind of a high-end section of San Diego. We bought a condo for cash, and they said, "So this is how much they didn't get comedy."
Yeah.
Ex-mother-in-law said, "How's that joking thing working out for you?" And I said, "Well, it's working out pretty well." She goes, "What are you doing in La Jolla?" And I said, "This is the question I was waiting for. This is like a fastball right in the strike zone."
Right.
She goes, "What are you doing in La Jolla?" And I said, "We bought a condo over here in La Jolla Shores for cash." Oh, that's going out of the park.
Yeah.
Rub it in, why don't you?
Oh,
yeah.
man, that's
So I did, by the way, as a young man, I was insufferable, sense of entitlement. So I said to my in-laws, "Look, before we part company, I just want to apologize." And they said, "For what?" And I said, "For the years you knew me between the time I was 16 and 23, because I was insufferable." And they said, "No, you weren't." I go, "Come on. We all know I was." So just, I go, "We accept the apology," which is closure for me.
Oh, that's funny.
So
That's great.
how do, you came out as a Mormon on stage.
Right.
Yeah. Well, how do other people perceive? Are you like the Mormon comic or the straight-laced comic, or what's the perception?
Yeah, I think I've developed a reputation for being the Mormon, married, clean comic. So those
There's a unicorn.
Yeah, unbelievable. At 32, pretty ridiculous. Yeah, so I think that's the perception. I think the people in my and Zara's generation are a little bit disillusioned with organized religion in general, but are still very spiritual though, which I find very interesting, right? So there was one show where there was one mic. There was a mic where I did this. It was one of the first times I was, coming out as the Mormon, and there was a very pronounced atheist who I'd seen his act before, and I found him very funny. And after the mic, he came up to me and said, "You need to keep doing that, because that is good material. You need to develop it more. There's something definitely there." And he was like, "I've tried looking up Christian comics just for a different sort of view of comedy, and like there are not very many good ones in my opinion, right?" And
correct.
Keep going. You need to keep going. So for me, it was a huge answer to this question that I'd had about whether or not I was going to get any traction doing more genuine material, at least for me. So that sort of solidified for me I need to pursue this more.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did a show called Bananas. It was a clean comedy show, a Christian comedy show, actually. The thing about Christian comics is if they were comics before they found Christ, and they were good comics before they found Christ, they're usually pretty funny. If they were Christians before they found comedy, not always the case.
Yeah. There's some great YouTube videos of jokes that they tell each other, and it is astoundingly bad.
Yeah.
All biblically based, very insider-ish. It's really phenomenal how bad some of them can be.
Well, and Bananas, they didn't do their market research. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Zara. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said, what's the deal with Noah's Ark?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I've got bigger complaints about the Bible than that, by the way. Well, there's no practical advice. There's no mention the world's not flat. There's no mention you should put the well above the outhouse, not below the outhouse. You think if God knows everything, He would certainly know that's the way you keep people from getting,
Yeah. That's not why you're reading the book, though. You're not reading the book for hygiene.
Yeah, I just feel sorry for, what is it, Lot? Where's my wife? Well, I hope you don't have high blood pressure. She's that pillar of salt over there.
Well, maybe she was a terrible wife, Maybe he was like, Did I hear something behind? Can you look? Check that out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or Lazarus. You don't think he's upset when he came back from the dead? I'm sure his job was gone. You know, he's already hit the funeral. What are you doing here? You're dead.
Girlfriend had moved on. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
No, the Bananas comedy show, that was a Christian comedy show. Well, there's 26 weeks in a season on a regular television season. And at the time, there's only like 32 Christian comics. So I get to the end of end of the first season, and they end of the second season realizing, wait a minute. So I got a call from Taylor Mason.
Yeah.
Who goes, look, Frank, here's the deal. It's a Christian comedy show, but now what they're looking for is clean heathens. So, because I could do an hour of clean comedy, and there aren't that many comics can do. Comics can do an hour of clean comedy.
Yeah.
Well, the only problem for me was that during the production, they said, do you want to testify? Somebody warned me they're going to ask you to testify. And so they said, listen, it's a Christian comedy show. Do you want to testify? And I said on camera, look, you get me a grant of immunity, and I'll tell you whatever you want to know. So
that's not what we meant.
No, that's not what they meant.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, but as I am proud of you for doing that. I think your atheist friend is correct, because you have chosen you on stage.
Yeah.
Everything you write and perform, you don't have, it's organic. It fits or it doesn't. So that's So now there must be something silly about the Mormon culture. I mean, come on. I've read I'm going to get Krakauer's book, and it's just chock full. Is Eden really in Missouri somewhere?
Anamondiaman. Is that what you're
what about
referencing?
Planet Zot? That's what I want to know. What's all this?
Oh, Planet Zot. I haven't heard of that, actually. There's Kolob. Have you heard of Kolob?
Oh, that's the planet.
Yeah.
That's the one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, every religion has its. People said to me, the Mormon religion is weird. I go, wait a minute. Every religion to people outside of the religion. I'm Episcopal, and every week we eat the flesh and drink the blood of Christ. Now you can't tell me, it's almost vampirish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, every religion from the outside looking in has its
incredibly morbid. Yeah.
Quirks, So I'm sure you have you ever done a show just for Mormons where you did you poked a little fun at the Mormon church? Is that?
I have not yet. I have invited a big reason I started doing a clean comedy show, producing it and inviting comics to come try and do clean comedy and develop their material, for late night TV auditions or whatever it is. A big reason I started doing that show is because I was inviting, members of my church to the Comedy Store or to the Ice House to see me perform at these other shows. And they would come away and say, some of them would be like, yeah, that was, all of it was fine. But most would say, your stuff was fine. Your stuff was good. But the rest of it made us really uncomfortable. So I started. So a lot of my clean comedy shows are in front of a lot of members of my church, but it's not exclusively members of my church.
And what do you got? What's silly about the Mormon church that that you've worked into your act?
I think the name, how long it is ridiculous. And so I will, I'll say the full name on stage, and then I've started talking about doomsday stuff because it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So every Sunday it was sort of like, well, we might not be here tomorrow. Jesus could come back at any moment. But you got to still do all your stuff. So it's like grade school. I think about grades, tests. What's the point? What's the point of all of this? And my parents telling me to clean my room. Why? Because Jesus might clean it up tomorrow, might come and take care of everything.
I might get raptured out of here. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I'll talk about that aspect of it.
So we have the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and then we have the Jews. Okay, now that's a group that knows how to name.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. That's the way to go.
Is twice as long, and is still.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Islam. What is it, 5 letters? Islam.
Yeah, very, very short.
Yeah.
Well, Joseph Smith said, if a religion doesn't require everything of you, then what's the point? So,
no, but not every letter in the alphabet.
I mean, if you can't even say the name of the church, you're not being saved.
Okay, now I've been to Salt Lake. I got to tell you, it's a lovely spot.
Yeah.
But I'm flying in, looking down. I'm thinking somebody came across that mountain range, looked down at this, and thought, This is the promised land.
That's right.
I guess his followers are like, where are those magic glasses when you need them?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I imagine Joseph didn't know it was a Salt Lake when he said that. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I don't know. So Brigham Young ended up leading all of the people into Salt Lake.
Oh, see how much I know about religion. Whoops.
Yeah, so Joseph Smith was martyred in Nauvoo. Yeah, when most of the saints were still in Nauvoo, in Missouri. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So he got out early.
Yeah, he got out early, and then Brigham Young took over and led the Exodus out and ended up in Salt Lake. So there's a lot of sort of cultural stuff about how similar the Salt Lake area is to ancient Israel.
Yeah, I would
the
give you
Dead
that.
Sea
Yep.
and Jordan River, all of that. So.
Oh yeah, and it's it's beautiful in its own. Utah is beautiful in its own way.
Yeah.
I've driven quite a
I'm
bit.
sure there are a lot of Mormons in California because it was like, what? We could have just kept going? This paradise? Come on.
Malibu? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Actually, there are Mormons all over the world. I've got friends from Samoa. You guys do you're like Amway.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't know a guy, I can get you in touch. Bring 3 friends. You'll be promoted.
Exactly. It's an Amway without soap. So fears. Were you afraid when you went on stage the first time? I mean, you've done the improv at the Comedy Sports, so you had like an introduction.
Yeah, but stand-up has always scared me. At least when I still get nervous before every show. But yeah, I was terrified to do stand-up and still get nervous to do it. But yes, it was terrifying. The first few mics that I did in front of complete strangers at good nights were, horrendously bad. Just awful. Voice shaking, hands shaking, the whole thing. Sweating profusely. Just terrible. And I hate when comics are like, oh no, my first time was really great. Liars. That's what I do.
Well, Seth, I got to tell you.
I believe that it works out for some people.
Yeah, well, I was older, so I'd been working on it my entire life.
Sure.
And I knew in my heart that every time I drove by the Comedy Store, I felt this magnetic pull. And I went in and watched. I tell young comics, go in and watch a couple open mics, see how bad 75% of them are, and that gives you the courage to get up and
sure.
Probably thinking you're probably funnier than they are, and you probably are. So
sure.
So do you have a podcast?
Yeah, I've started one. It has not aired yet. I'm trying to get a few episodes under the belt before issuing it, so I don't have to do it every single week. But yeah, it's going to be called Disorganized Religion. So I'm going to have comics on, talk about their history with comedy, their history with religion or divinity, or the lack thereof. Yeah.
So I was going to say maybe Zara and I.
I've had Zara on one episode. We're going to redo it. She was not satisfied with her representation of the Islam faith, as I gathered. So I ended up asking incredibly nerdy, specific questions, and gave her no warning whatsoever. So we're gonna redo it.
Yeah, I'm studying up and everything like that.
Yeah, and she's gonna have an imam there.
Yeah, right, ready to go. Well, see, my problem is, and what I realized with Zara is that most of the people I had been prepping for with this podcast no longer affiliate with a religion, and so they don't really care how they talk about their own religion because they don't like it that much.
Yes.
But with Zara, who still cares very deeply for her religion, it is a very high precious, and I was not sensitive to that fact, and I should have been, because that's the way I am about my religion, right? I don't want to say anything that's wrong or incorrect. I'd like to represent it correctly. So.
No, and by the way, on a final note, I am delighted that you find great comfort in your religion as Zara does in hers. I think, we can certainly agree to disagree on religion, but if it gets you through the night, if you're four square and it does what it needs to do for you, then I'm delighted.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's I go to church with this older woman who's an Episcopal, and I eat the flesh of Christ and drink his blood every week.
Yeah.
So who am I to talk about?
Yeah, right. The craziness. I mean, we do the same thing. We don't believe in the transubstantiation like Catholics do, but
Yeah.
representative, it's a similar idea.
And here's the thing about Catholics. Okay, if the Pope is infallible, explain that hat.
Fashion, a sin?
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, you and your mom have been delightful.
Well, thank you so much for having us on.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Yes, our first mom and son combination. We'll have to do this. And I would love to come on your show, Seth, at some point when, as I'm sure Zara would as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be in touch for sure.
All right. Well, thank you for staying with us for the Suicide Prevention Punchline after show. This will go up on YouTube. When it posts as a podcast and on YouTube, we'll let you guys know. So, Seth, you can share it with your social media. Mom, you can, I guess, Hotmail or whatever. Yeah. I've never been so happy to be at a distance and do this because I know I'd have gotten slapped in the back of the head by your mom. Not my child.
True.
Not my child, but I'll tell you.
I will say this. She has come millions of miles away from where we started. The first time we logged on to AOL, I will tell you, we sat down and she said, I need you to help me get on the internet. I said, great. We turned on the computer and I said, okay, now first thing you want to double click on this. And she said, wait, slow down. And I looked over and she had a notepad, pen, and the first step she wrote down was turn on computer. And I thought, this is not.
No.
This is too many steps.
Oh, Jeremy.
So she is millions of years away from where she was.
That's terrific. Well, Mom, nice meeting you. Seth, a pleasure meeting you. Thanks for being kind.
Thank you. You too.
My friend Zara, because, some comics aren't. And that better never happen in my presence because I'm crazy. You guys know that.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you both so much.
Hey, guys, that's the Suicide Prevention Punchline After Show. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you. Now I can push the button.